Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. Also, happy Mother's Day to all the mommies out there watching. In honor of today, I've made another mommy and me tutorial, a two-piece bodycon for myself and a matching dress for my minnie. If you're interested in how I achieve these looks, please stay tuned. Alright guys, let's get started. I have 1.5 yards of this polyester spandex stretch fabric. I have a stretch knit tank top and a stretch knit pencil skirt to trace for my patterns. I take the skirt and fold it in half and place it on top of my craft paper. I trace both sides. Then I add about 15 inches to the end of the skirt to elongate it below the knee to mid-calf. At the other end, I trace the slant toward the bottom of the skirt. I take my tank and fold it in half to the back. Then I fold the bottom in half and tuck the end of the shirt in out of the way, then trace. I make double of the same tank pattern. I take one of those pattern pieces and mark 2 inches down from the neckline. I take my curved ruler and trace a deep curve and stop midpoint. Then I line my ruler at the top of the shoulder point and continue tracing down to the end of the curved point. After tracing and cutting the deeper curve at the neckline, I now have the front and back patterns for my tank top. I cut the patterns onto the fabric for my skirt and for my top. Also, I'd like to mention that there is a grain of the fabric that has more stretch than the opposite side, so I made sure to cut my patterns on the fold where the stretch is placed horizontally. That way there's more give in getting in and out of the garment, and there will be no need for a zipper. I take one side of the skirt and some elastic. I measure the elastic to the waistband and cut twice for the other side of the skirt. Then I sew the elastic onto the waistline with an overlock stitch and do it a second time for the other side. Here's a closer look after it's been attached. I place the front and the back of the skirt together, front facing in, and sew down the sides with a straight stitch. Next, I line the front and the back of the tank, front facing in, and sew the shoulders together. I leave the side open for now and cut off about 2 inches from the bottom to crop it just a little shorter. After sewing the shoulders together and before sewing down the sides, I attach elastic along the bottom of the tank the same way I did for the waistline of the skirt. After attaching the elastic with an overlock stitch, I sew the sides of the tank together and overlock stitch the raw ends. I do the same for the raw ends of the skirt. Next, I hem the bottom of the skirt. Then I overlock stitch the raw ends around the neckline, then fold over a 1/2 inch to hem, and I do the same for the armholes. For the last few steps, I take the end of the waistband and fold it over to the front, then sew down along the seam. I do the same for the other side. I also follow the same step for the elastic on the cropped tank top. Here's the bottom of the skirt that's been hemmed. After sewing the elastic in place on the ends, I flip it in once inwards, and this will help keep it in place with a nice neat finish around the waistline. This is the crop top that's been hemmed around the neckline and armholes, as well as the finished elastic at the bottom. sleeves are complete. For my baby girl's dress, I have about a half yard of leftover fabric. I used one of her tank tops to make the pattern for the top of the dress by folding it in half to the back, then folding up from the bottom, then tracing around. I traced and cut double of the same pattern. To make a deeper curve for the front top, I follow the same steps as I did for my top, measuring down 2 inches from the neckline, then lining my curved ruler from that point to the top shoulder point, then I trace and cut the curve. Now I have the front and back patterns for the top of the dress. I cut the patterns for the front and the back of the top onto the fabric, and I have the placket for the back of the top. I cut 2 30-inch by 11-inch pieces for the skirt of the dress. First, I take the back of the top and pin at the center point. Then I take my placket that's about 2 inches wide and cut off a piece that's 4 inches long. I take and pin the center point of the placket with the center point of the shirt. I measure down 3 inches and pin at that point. Then I take a ruler and draw a line down at the center point as a guideline to sew around. I sew down one side and leave the other side open so I can sew the loop for the button attachment. I made the loop attachment by taking a piece of 1-inch fabric, then folding over twice and sewing straight across. I take the loop attachment and fold over about 1 inch at the end and cut. I lift the other side of the placket and place the raw ends of the loop at the opening a 1/2 inch down from the neckline. Then I place the placket back over and pin all together. Next, I sew down and across. After sewing that together, I flip the placket to the back and top stitch along the edge of the opening to hold in place. Here's the finished look and the loop. I'll be adding the button a little later. I lay the front of the shirt front facing in and sew the shoulders and sides together. I overlock stitch the raw ends and hem around the neckline and armholes. And here's what the top looks like right side out from the front and the back. Now for the skirt, I take both pieces and sew the sides together and hem the bottom of the skirt. Then I sew a base stitch around the top of the skirt for the gathering. Here's the skirt right side out with the sides sewn together and hemmed around the bottom. And now I'm going to gather at the top of the skirt. I use the top of the dress as a guide for the waist length. I hold the end of the thread and carefully begin to gather the fabric. When I reach the waist length, I take the top and turn it inside out. I pull the skirt through the top and line the top of the skirt and the bottom of the top together, right sides facing in. Then I pin the seams of the top and the skirt together on both sides. I continue to pin around and sew the top and the skirt together. I have the skirt attached, and I also added the button on the back of the shirt for the loop attachment. I'm just going to attach them together so you can see what that looks like. And now the dress is complete. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.